When did you watch karma humiliate a cheater in the worst possible way? Story 1. I was the HR business partner assigned to our sales org when our regional manager, Aaron, decided to propose to his girlfriend during the quarterly all-hands. He'd primed the AV team, told me he wanted a leadership moment about commitment, and asked permission to play a highlight reel of their vacations before dropping to one knee. The problem was the corporate card audit on my desk, hotel charges in 3 cities, receipts signed A, in a handwriting that was not his girlfriend's delicate script I'd seen on his reimbursement forms. Also, duplicate Uber rides minutes apart going to the same boutique hotel while he was supposedly at client dinners. I flagged it to compliance. They opened a case, asked me not to tip him off. We froze quietly, waiting. Then came the all-hands. The lights dim, the screen fills with beach sunsets, and Aaron launches into a speech about loyalty. He cues the reel, but the AV lead, following the newest training file his team had been given by compliance, played the wrong video. An identical opener, sunsets, laughter, then quick cuts to the same hotels, same dates, overlaid with time-stamped company card statements, and a security cam still of Aaron kissing our Denver client's admin by the hotel elevators. The room went dead quiet except for the AC. His girlfriend, front row, covered her mouth. Aaron scrambled for the mic, yelling that this was some prank. Then the CFO stood up from the aisle, said very calmly, "This isn't a prank, it's evidence. Your proposal can wait until after we discuss misuse of company funds." HR eyes darted to me. I nodded, and 2 compliance reps walked him out while 200 employees watched the world's most corporate walk of shame. The girlfriend didn't cry. She walked to the stage, took the ring box from his shaky hand, and handed it to the CFO. "This belongs to the company," she said. "He bought it on your card." She turned to the crowd, thanked the AV team for the clarity, and left to a spontaneous, awkward, then oddly triumphant round of applause. Aaron was terminated for cause that afternoon. The client? She emailed a week later, "I guess we'll move our account, preferably to a team that understands boundaries." Karma didn't just humiliate him. It invoiced him with receipts. Story 2. I was 14 when my mother decided to host the first full family dinner after my parents' trial separation. Dad wanted to be there because Grandma was flying in and he wanted to keep appearances. Mom said yes, because appearances had already done their damage. Dad's affair with his gym friend had moved from whispers to a citywide Facebook rumor mill after someone posted a photo of them at a cabin 2 hours away. Same weekend, he told us he was at a conference. Dinner started polite. Grandma passed her famous rolls. My aunt asked neutral questions. My little brother kept drumming the table with a fork. Dad kept reaching for Mom's hand like we were playing house. Then Grandma asked for my help with her phone. "Sweetie, can you airplay the slideshow? I want the family to see my trip photos." I mirrored the album to the TV. It auto-played through Montana trains, bad hotel carpeting, a lot of pictures of her thumb, and then a video started. Not Grandma's. It was labeled Dad Receipts from a hidden album on Mom's phone that synced to the TV because I'd logged in with the house Apple ID. The room froze as a screen recording rolled. Dad's texts to Kira Spin, the gym friend. Blue bubbles bragging about how the kids will adapt. Selfies from the cabin, and a voice memo. His, promising her a ring once the house sells. The final clip was a live photo Mom had taken of the cabin receipt she found in his coat pocket. The one he swore was just a brochure. In live photo mode, 3 seconds of motion captured him in the background walking into the shot, kissing Kira's cheek. He'd filmed his own proof. Dad snapped, yanked the HDMI cable. Grandma, who rarely raises her voice, said, "Sit down, Thomas." He muttered about privacy and context. Mom stood, not angry, steady. "Context is that your son asked me if being a good dad means lying this well," she said. My brother stopped drumming. "I pick Mom," he whispered, like it was PE and we were skipping teams. The twist? Kira herself commented on the Facebook thread later that night, thinking she was DMing Dad. "Tell your mother I didn't know they were still together." Mom replied from the public post, "He told me you were the trainer's assistant." Then Kira messaged Mom privately, sending screenshots of 2 more women he'd promised rings to. He'd copy-pasted the same vow, down to the typo in soulmate. Dad wanted appearances. He got a mirror. Mom filed for divorce the next morning with screenshots signed by 3 women who suddenly realized they were not special and decided to make sure a judge knew it. Story 3. I'm a court reporter. I sit, I type, I don't react. No matter what I hear, that's the rule. But the day karma humiliated Jacob R., I confess my eyebrows did a small controlled dance. Jacob was petitioning for primary custody of his 8-year-old Maya, arguing that his ex, Lila, was alienating the child. Subtext in the hallway was that Jacob had left Lila for a coworker and now wanted to move Maya 2 counties over to build his new family. Lila, soft-spoken, had the quiet, exhausted look of someone who carries lunchboxes and attorney fees at the same time. Jacob was polished. He told the judge Lila manufactures fear, that she's paranoid, that Maya's stories about dad missing pickups were coached narratives. His new partner sat behind him, chin high. Lila's attorney was methodical. He entered attendance logs, pediatrician notes, screenshots of Jacob's "can't tonight, baby, big pitch tomorrow" texts, sent on 5 separate custody nights. Jacob smirked like none of it would stick. Then Lila's attorney called a surprise witness. The ring, not a person, the literal doorbell. They'd subpoenaed the cloud account. "Your Honor," the attorney said. "On dates, Mr. R alleges he was present for bedtime. The doorbell recorded him dropping Maya off at 6:12 p.m. and returning at 10:41 p.m. with a different woman." The judge asked who had authenticated the footage. The company's custodian of records confirmed chain of custody. Jacob shifted. The videos played. Fisheye lens, Maya's little backpack bouncing, Jacob's voice promising movie night. Then his car backing out 90 seconds later. Later, the same camera caught him returning with wine, laughing with a woman who was not the coworker. This was a new rotation. Jacob objected that the angle distorts context. The judge responded, dry, "It is a camera, Mr. R, not a novelist." Then came Maya's testimony. In chambers, piped to the courtroom audio only for the attorneys and the judge. Small voice, big facts. "Daddy says I should tell people mommy makes me scared, but I'm scared when daddy forgets me, and I don't know who the lady is." The new partner put her head in her hands. The order arrived a week later. Lila awarded primary custody, Jacob's time reduced and supervised temporarily until he completed a parenting course. The last line of the judge's remarks was the paper cut of it all. "It appears the alienation here is not maternal but moral." On his way out, Jacob muttered something about vengeful women. The clerk, in a voice only I could hear, said, "She didn't do this to you. Your doorbell did. Story 4. I was the wedding photographer. The bride, Zoe, had booked me ages ago. The groom, Cole, was charming in a way that photographs well and ages poorly. Rumors floated. Late-night Snapchat streaks, a suspicious weekend fishing trip. But Zoe shrugged them off. If he's dumb enough to cheat before the wedding, he's dumb enough to do it where a lens can find him," she joked. I thought it was bravado. I didn't know she meant it. The ceremony was in a glass house venue with that echoing audio where every whisper turned sermon. During portraits, Cole kept vanishing. "Bathroom," his best man said, again and again. The bridesmaids exchanged looks. When we lined up for the grand entrance into the reception, the DJ tested mics, the planner checked the timeline, and the maid of honor handed me a small lapel recorder. "Bride's instructions," she said. "Keep rolling near the sweetheart table." She says, "Trust her dinner, toasts, cake, normal." Then the bouquet toss. The DJ called all single women to the floor. As Zoe lifted her arm, the house lights dimmed, and the projector, originally cued for a cute childhood montage, flickered to life. The first image, a screen recording of Cole's Snapchat map toggling between the venue and a motel 4 miles away. Timestamps layered with the ceremony schedule. Next, a clip from a hallway camera, publicly shared by the motel on their safety page, of all things. Cole slipping into room 214 in his tux shirt, tie loosened, 30 minutes before the first dance. A final photo. A selfie from the woman inside, taken in the mirror, his hands clearly identifiable by the distinctive tattoo he bragged about in his vows. The room went silent, then gasped as one organism. Cole started towards the DJ booth. Zoe raised a hand. "Don't," she said, steady. "I set the projector." She turned to the guests, voice cracking just once. "I planned this whole day around believing someone who told me I was crazy. So I planned a backup ceremony for the moment I stopped being crazy." She pulled a document from under the sweetheart table, an already notarized annulment agreement with a clause that, if marital fraud occurred before consummation, gifts would be returned to the bride's family. Her father, a lawyer, stepped forward, placed a pen on the table. The best man, shaking, whispered, "Dude, you told me it was just texting." The maid of honor started the music again, but a different track, a dance floor anthem that swallowed the awkwardness and turned it into motion. The twist? Zoe kept the venue, the bar, the DJ, just dropped the groom. She invited everyone to stay for her unceremony, where she danced with her mom, then with her grandma, then with any kid who wanted to whirl under the lights. Guests lined up to sign the back of her annulment like a yearbook. Cole left to a chorus of clinking glasses that somehow sounded like laughter. If humiliation has a soundtrack, It's a cheer set to 128 beats per minute. Story 5. I'm the neighbor across the hall, the one who waters plants when folks travel and sees more than I say. Across from me lived perfect couple Trevor and Nina. He was the HOA's favorite handyman, the guy who borrowed tools and forgot to return them. She taught piano and made brownies for the lobby at Christmas. Then a new car appeared in Trevor's spot. A sleek coupe with a dealer tag and a vanity plate that read MUSE. Everyone assumed midlife reward. I saw him polishing it at midnight with a grin that didn't include his eyes. He started getting packages labeled to a name that wasn't Nina's. He posted motivational reels about hustle and silent moves. Nina posted nothing but sheet music and dogs. Then came the fender bender. A teenager scraped the MUSE car in the lot and, panicking, called his dad. The dad posted to our neighborhood Facebook group asking for the owner to DM, so insurance could handle it. Trevor swooped in, puffed up, shouting about depreciation and custom paint. The dad asked for the registration. Trevor produced it. Too fast. The admin of the FB group happens to be my friend. She DM'd me. Why does the registration say co-owner, Liana M, not Nina? A thread erupted. Neighbors chiming in with screenshots of Trevor tagging this Liana on TikTok under burner accounts. Nina, God help her, was in that thread too. At first defending him, probably a business partner. Then the teenager's dashcam video got posted. It captured the corner of a conversation from earlier that day. Trevor, leaning against the Muse car, telling Liana, house goes up next month. She thinks it's for debt. We split the equity. We're gone. You could see Nina in the background through our building's glass doors, carrying groceries. Nina didn't comment. She went quiet for 2 weeks. Then the twist. A moving truck. Not his. Hers. She'd met with a lawyer who found, under discovery, that Trevor had opened a secret line of credit with the house as collateral. The lawyer also found that Liana was not just a mistress. She was under contract with a private investigations firm. For Nina, the MUSE car, rented by the PI firm to bait Trevor into putting assets in a name that could be deposed. He'd bragged himself into evidence. On move-out day, Trevor tried to spin it. You set me up, he hissed in the hallway. Nina looked at the boxes labeled with his tools, the ones he never returned, and said, softly, you set the trap. I just let it close. The HOA president, once Trevor's biggest fan, fined him for unauthorized work he'd done as favors. The FB group admin closed the comment thread with a simple line. Neighbors help neighbors. Sometimes the help is a mirror. Trevor left without his vanity plates. Someone had unscrewed them and left them on Nina's welcome mat like an exclamation point. Story 6. I'm a morning show producer. You know the bit. Couples call in. We send free roses. See who the partner chooses. Cue chaos. I hate it. Feels predatory. But it pays. One Tuesday, Derek writes that his fiancée, Tamsin, is crazy jealous, and he wants to prove her wrong on air before their engagement party that weekend. I warn him our bit has consequences. He says, she needs to chill. We call from the studio line, offer a dozen roses to anyone he loves. He picks S, not Tamsin. He says S saved his mental health, and gives an address across town. I have the courier form open when my host raises a finger and presses the cough button. We've got 2 callers on hold claiming to be S. We go live with the first. A woman, voice shaking. I'm not S. I'm the maid of honor. I'm also the person paying the venue deposit. Derek. What is happening? Before he can answer, the second S comes through. She's calm. Hi, Derek. I'm your therapist. Terminated therapist. You texted my personal phone after I discharged you and said you were meant to be with me. I've already sent the board your messages. Dead air would be merciful. We don't do merciful. The host asks permission to read texts. The therapist agrees. Screenshots hit the station Twitter. Derek promising her a real relationship once the wedding is past, asking if she can diagnose Tamsin in writing so he can keep the apartment after a breakup. The therapist says she blocked him months ago. He kept writing. To his boss, to his building manager, to her clinic's office line. My board lights up. Listeners sending copies of Derek's LinkedIn posts about stoic discipline, and a GoFundMe for the engagement party with a goal of $10,000 for once-in-a-lifetime love. His company's HR emails the station. We'd like the full tape for an internal investigation. We never provide without consent. Tamsin consents within 10 minutes. Here's the twist. Tamsin arrives at our lobby with 2 people, the venue owner and Derek's mother. The venue owner plays security footage of Derek touring the reception hall with yet another woman 2 weeks earlier, whispering that Tamsin is a placeholder. His mother removes her ring, places it in Tamsin's hand. My late husband gave me this. You won't be marrying my son, but take this to pawn for your costs. Tamsin does one better. She pulls out a notarized cancellation and the GoFundMe ledger. Funds raised in her name are refunded to donors, and the remainder, Derek's personal contributions and a corporate match he bragged about, are sent to the therapist's clinic to cover low-income patients' care. Karma didn't send roses. It sent receipts and a grant. Story 7. I watched karma from the stage lights. I was graduating Summa, first in my family, with the mother who worked double shifts clapping so hard her hands turned pink. My father, who left when I was 15 for a woman who called me kiddo like a stray, insisted on coming. He wanted a moment. He meant a photo op. He wore a blazer with a lapel pin that read, Girl Dad. Mid-ceremony, an aerial banner buzzed the stadium. Congrats, LIA. My name? Paid for by him. I later learned. He stood to wave like he'd flown the plane himself. My mother kept staring at the stage, not the sky. When the dean called us to the podium to read the valediction, I swapped the approved speech for a thank you I'd written at 3 a.m. It wasn't bitter. It was a ledger. I thanked the librarian who opened early, the neighbor who fixed our car for free, the cafeteria worker who slipped me extra fruit on exam days. I thanked my mother for learning FAFSA acronyms like a second language. I said, some people give you last names, some give you a life. Then the registrar mispronounced mine. Leah. R. My father's surname, the one he'd weaponized in Facebook posts to pretend we were close. I walked across, stopped at the mic, and asked the provost to correct the record. It's Leah Flores, I said. As of this morning, the Jumbotron cut to my diploma. The name had changed. The crowd murmured. My mother's face broke into a smile I will never forget. The twist wasn't just the name, it was timing. A process server in a mortarboard approached my father in the stands and handed him papers, not cliché divorce papers. An order for wage garnishment for the back child support he'd dodged for years by funneling income through his girlfriend's consulting LLC. Turns out the girlfriend had filed a fraud complaint after he borrowed her company card to buy tickets for the banner plane. She attached his boasting texts and a photo of the invoice he sent from his shell email, where he spelled my name wrong. The crowd didn't know what the papers were, but they watched a man's face go from branded confidence to calculation to panic. He stood to leave, but the usher, my mother's cousin, asked him to sit until the row finished clapping for the next graduate. He sat, small, while my mother and I hugged on the 50-yard line and the camera caught her whisper, Flores looks good on you, girl dad. Pin glinting, wage order in hand, he finally understood what my speech had been. Not revenge, but an audit. Story 8. I'm an open records attorney for a small city. My job is boring until it isn't. Our arts nonprofit received a grant with transparency strings attached. Board minutes, emails, expense reports, public records. The executive director, Sean, was the kind of man who liked vision, but not receipts. He also liked a cellist in the orchestra who posted thirst traps with oboes and quotes from Rilke. Rumors bubbled. The board chair, Sean's wife, refused to believe them. Then a reporter filed a request for all correspondence related to artist housing stipends. Routine. We pulled emails. Our IT flagged a side Slack instance named Stage Door. It was used for creative brainstorming, Sean said. We imaged it under the policy anyway. That's when the curtain dropped. Threads of Sean complaining that donors prefer their masters faithful, private invites to late-night after rehearsals at a short-term rental the nonprofit was paying for, and an artist housing spreadsheet where one cell, highlighted in pink, read C.E. Cellist. 3 nights per week comped. The rent matched a lease in Sean's name. I told the board chair we had to release. She requested a 1-day delay to prepare. Legal can't do favors. We posted at 10 a.m. The city's transparency portal auto-tweets new documents. Within minutes, the orchestra's principal trumpet quote tweeted with, Hey, at City Arts, is creative brainstorming tax deductible? The cellist DM'd our portal admin with an apology that reads like a confession. I thought he was separated. He said the board knew. I'm sorry, we redact personal info. We don't redact accountability. The chair held an emergency meeting. Sean swaggered in, said the optics were unfortunate. A volunteer, retired librarian, stood and said, These aren't optics, these are numbers. The twist was who filed the next records request. A law clinic representing 3 artists Sean had deprioritized after they rejected his invitations. Their request included a spreadsheet of audition scores showing sudden drops after rebuffed texts. Texts we had, in which he wrote, Symphony needs loyalty. I watched the chair's face as she read her husband's words. She didn't cry. She signed a termination letter for cause. Then she filed for legal separation the same day, citing the public documents as exhibits. At the next concert, the cellist played anyway. She stood, alone, and performed a solo that sounded like someone learning to breathe again. The program notes thanked the city for supporting transparency. The orchestra raised money that night for an artist emergency fund, named after the librarian who'd spoken. Sean sent me a cease and desist drafted by his new lawyer. I framed it. Public records aren't gentle, but sometimes karma needs a clerk. Story 9. My sister married Theo, a golden-tongued charity runner who never met a camera he didn't love. He collected race bibs and admiration, and as we learned, phone numbers. When our mother died, we held a simple funeral. Theo volunteered to handle the slideshow because grief needs good storytelling. He arrived with a pristine thumb drive and a somber tie. My sister, hollowed out by loss, nodded at anything that made the day easier. The service unfolded gently. Hymns, eulogies, the slideshow. Except the first images weren't childhood photos. They were screenshots. Hotel confirmations in Theo's email, tagged race weekends. Instagram DMs from Coach Kira, promising post-run recovery. A selfie of Theo in a bathroom mirror, wearing our mother's memorial t-shirt. Time-stamped 2 hours after he'd told my sister he was picking up flowers. Gasps ricocheted off the chapel walls. The pastor fumbled for the clicker. Theo lunged for the projector cart, whisper shouting that a troll hacked us. The officiant turned to my sister. She stood very still, then looked at the back row. Our aunt, a retired IT admin, lifted a hand. She'd set the slideshow to auto-advance through a folder labeled MOM. Theo had renamed his affair screenshots MOM1, MOM2, etc., to hide them in plain sight on their home computer, then handed the thumb drive to my aunt to test earlier. She'd opened the folder and understood immediately. She didn't change the files, she changed the order. Karma by alphabetical sort. Theo tried to storm out, but the funeral director, ex-Marine, asked him to sit until the pallbearers finished. My sister walked to the podium. My mother organized everything, she said, voice steady. She labeled things exactly as they were. I'm going to do that now. She looked at Theo. Adulterer. She looked at herself. Widow and wife in the same week. She looked at the crowd. Family. The twist came after the burial. Our mother's will included a codicil we hadn't seen. A small inheritance for my child if her marriage is healthy and free from deceit, with the executor empowered to delay payment otherwise. Theo had helped draft it, apparently certain of his control. The executor, Mom's lawyer, handed my sister a choice. Accept the funds now, individually, or hold them as a joint household gift. She signed her name alone. 2 days later, she filed to evict Theo from the house my mother had co-signed. He protested in texts dripping with prayer hands emojis and let's work. She replied with a single attachment. The funeral slideshow, now a zip file. Even grief had room for precision. Story 10. I own a bar that politicians rent for meet and greets. One councilman, Rick, sold himself as the family values pitbull. He booked a Thursday, insisted on a photo wall with his wife and 3 kids. He also asked offhand if our vintage photo booth was working because voters love analog. It was. An old unit that prints 2 strips per shot, one for the customer, one that slides to a hidden box so we can post nostalgia boards. We hadn't emptied the box in months. The night starts with speeches and handshakes. Rick's wife is gracious in a way that made me want to invent new taxes to fund her spa days. Rick keeps slipping into the back hallway. At 9:12 p.m., a woman I recognize from a lobbyist's Instagram, always a cocktail, always an ankle, sneaks behind the curtain with him. They don't know the booth prints doubles. They do know how to kiss like a campaign promise. The second strip lands in the hidden box with a soft click. Around 9:40, a reporter I trust texts me. Hearing your booth caught something. We check the box. There it is. 4 frames of Rick's hands where his hands shouldn't be. I'm not a gotcha guy. I tell the reporter I won't leak. Then Rick goes on stage and starts attacking a rival's broken marriage and lack of morals, wrapping himself in scripture and outrage. My bartender, who divorced quietly last year, sets down her shaker and says, "Nah, we don't post the photos. We do something quieter." We staple the second strip to Rick's open bar tab and slide it to his wife with the check presenter. Because humiliation without safety is cruelty. She looks, closes the book, breathes once, then walks on stage. Before we continue, she says into the mic, I want to thank my husband for reminding us that family values start at home. She holds up the photo strip. The room inhales as one. Rick tries to grab it. She holds firm. You will settle the tab in full, she tells him. And I will settle our households. The twist landed a week later when filings went public. She announced her own run for his seat. In her launch video, filmed in my bar, she stands by the photo booth and says, "Transparency looks like this." She doesn't mention the affair. She talks about budgets, buses, Boring things that keep a city alive. The ethics board opened an inquiry into Rick's lobbyist consulting. The lobbyist posted a Notes app apology that read like a closing argument. Rick came back to pay the tab and asked if I'd lost the photos. I pointed to the nostalgia board on the wall. A collage of strangers' kisses, moms with toddlers, old men in party hats, and one empty square with a caption under it in Sharpie, "Reserved for the truth." He got the message. So did the voters. Story 11. I work nights as an ER registrar. The person who takes your insurance, your emergency contacts, your who can visit list. One Friday, a guy named Brandon skids in with a sprained wrist and a face like he's more worried about his phone than the pain. He hands me his wallet, says, "Please call my fiancée, Sienna." I open his chart. The first emergency contact is wife, Marisol, set to notify immediately. The second is landlord, S. Price, which matches Sienna's number he's spelling out for me like I'm hard of hearing. Per policy, I call both. Marisol arrives in slippers, breathless because she thought notify immediately meant catastrophic. Sienna arrives in a blazer, calm fury stuffed into tailoring. They meet at the security desk when the guard asks who they're here for. "My husband," says Marisol. "My fiancé," says Sienna. The guard looks at me like I set off fireworks in the waiting room. Brandon's on a gurney waiting for X-ray when they push through the curtains together. He does a full sitcom triple take. "Baby, what? Babies, what?" He tries to introduce them. They introduce themselves. Marisol sets a plastic grocery bag on his lap. His mail. "Your credit card changed the primary address to Unit 2B. Attention, S. Price," she says. The bank called. Sienna pulls out a printed tenant ledger. "You listed me as your landlord to verify residency for a corporate relocation bonus. Fraud, by the way." He flails toward romance. "This is a misunderstanding. I've seen ruptured spleens look more convincing." I explain visitation rules. Only legal spouse or designated visitor gets back-of-house access after imaging. He points at Sienna. "She's my designated." I show him his own signature from last month, naming Marisol and his brother. He tries to correct it on the spot. The attending shakes his head. "Not while you're medicated." Then Karma shows up in scrubs, holding a clear Ziploc labeled patient belongings. Inside, the fiancé ring he bought, still in the box, with a store receipt. It's dated 2 hours earlier, purchased with a health savings debit card he also used to pay for the copay. The nurse raises an eyebrow. "You can't buy jewelry with pre-tax medical funds," she says. He croaks something about mental health. The twist? Sienna steps into the hallway, returns with a notary, her colleague on call from the firm upstairs. Marisol pulls out a pre-filled separation agreement she'd drafted with her cousin the day the bank called, leaving blank the date and the hospital wristband number. "Consider this the timestamp," she says, clicks the pen. Sienna leaves the Ziploc bag, ring and all, on his chest. "Bill your landlord at market rate," she says, and walks out with Marisol. I mark his visitor list. No visitors approved. Patient declined to designate, because after the X-ray, he mutters that he's better alone. He finally is. Story 12. I run storage auctions. Most days it's damp cardboard and abandoned treadmills. Then we opened Unit 314. The door rolled up to reveal a shrine to intention. 3 tuxedos and garment bags, a box labeled proposal kits, and a whiteboard with a flowchart, no joke, mapping out Q3 relationships. The flowchart had arrows from brunch girl and hot yoga to ring, with sticky notes that read, "Ask for dad's blessing, Google his name," and "Rent same cabin, repeatable." The crowd went feral. I started the bidding at $50. A man in sunglasses at the back raised a hand without looking. He was sweating in a way freshly discovered men sweat. We always require cash or card at the end. Sunglasses. Dude, call him Nate, kept winning lots. The tuxedos, the proposal kits, a box of Mont Blanc pens and embossed note cards that said, "My dearest." Then a woman I hadn't noticed raised her paddle. She never looked at Nate. She looked at the whiteboard like it was a language she'd learned too late. 200, she said, voice steady. She won the banker's boxes labeled Keepsakes, College. Another woman arrived minutes later, out of breath, holding a pink slip that matched Nate's name on the rental contract. "I co-signed this unit," she told me. He said it was for inventory. At payout, Nate's card declined. He tried another, declined. The co-signer, apparently brunch girl, had called the issuer while she was running from the parking lot. She had removed him from the shared account, flagged the charges, and, in a move of Kaufman-level performance art, added a note. Potential fraud. Purchasing proposal kits for multiple recipients. We accept cash. He didn't have it. By policy, if the bidder can't pay, the lot goes to the runner-up. The runner-up was the woman who bought Keepsakes College. She turned, finally looked at Nate and said, "You reused my father's letter draft." The twist was what she did next. She paid in full, signed for the unit, and opened it for a community redemption sale, pricing the items at pennies and holding a sign that said, "Take what you need to propose to someone you won't lie to." The tuxes went to a queer prom night. The pens went to a teacher. The "my dearest" cards she fed into a portable shredder like absolution. Then she found one last box. A velvet ring with an appraisal certificate made out to her name. She didn't throw it. She walked to the charity table we keep by the door for donations and set it in the glass bowl labeled Women's Shelter Fund. Nate tried to protest that it was his asset. I pointed to the rental ledger, to the cosigner document, to the decline notices lighting up his phone like fireworks. Karma doesn't always take your stuff. Sometimes it makes you carry it, in front of everyone, to a better owner. Story 13. I'm a gate agent at a major airline. You'd think the worst part of my job is the delays. It's actually people who treat the jet bridge like their personal runway. On a Sunday red-eye to Barcelona, we had a full flight, a long standby list, and one platinum member, Elias, who'd like to remind me of his lifetime miles. He had a companion ticket, reserved for his wife, per the profile. At T30, the companion hadn't checked in. Then, a woman in a white linen set breezed up, kissing Elias's cheek. He whispered, "I switched the companion to you." I checked. He had, yesterday, after 3 prior switches this quarter, which triggers a fraud review. Our system politely flags that with a tiny red dot that ruins nights. Policy says wives and companions are fine if you're honest. Policy also says if we suspect you're selling upgrades or lying on status qualifiers, we can lock the ticket and revert to the legal companion of record. At T20, a second woman arrived, breathless, holding a passport and a sleeve of travel documents like they were rosary beads. "My husband called," she said, eyes on Elias. "He said he'd meet me at security." He didn't pick up Elias. Panicked quiet. Linen Set asked, "Who is she?" Wife said, very politely, "The companion of record since 2017. I tapped my keyboard. The dot blinked. I called Revenue Protection. They asked me to hold the upgrade and confirm the companion in person. I asked for IDs. Linen Set produced a business card that said Muse Consultant. I swear these people all know each other. Wife produced a marriage certificate copy because she'd flown out of state for a funeral last month and learned the hard way that airlines like paper. Here's the petty part Karma let me deliver. The platinum upgrade list cleared 2 seats in business, 1A and 1C. I assigned 1A to the legal companion. Linen Set got her coach seat. Elias lost his upgrade pending review. He tried to bluster. I lowered my voice. "Sir, account misuse can result in confiscation of miles." He paled like I'd threatened his blood type. Then, Revenue Protection arrived with a supervisor who asked if he wanted to voluntarily surrender the miles he'd gifted to multiple companions outside policy or escalate to formal review, which includes notifying the IRS about taxable benefits improperly transferred. He surrendered so fast he almost dislocated Humility. The twist happened at boarding. Wife held her phone to the scanner and her screen flashed, "See agent." I braced for drama. The supervisor had quietly reissued her ticket using Elias's stash to bump her all the way to 1A and credited her account with the miles he'd earned during the years she babysat their kids while he networked. Linen Set, stuck in 34B, posted a story about classism that the internet did not receive kindly after people recognized Elias from his LinkedIn thought leadership. As the door closed, wife leaned across the aisle and said to me softly, "Keep his account number on file. My lawyer will need it." I slid the printout across. Bon voyage. Accountability. Story 14. I mod a mid-sized live streaming community. We're allergic to drama, which means we're drowning in it. One of our partner creators, Jax, built a brand around radical honesty. Daily streams, couple vlogs with his girlfriend Jules, and a monetized before-bed Q&A, where chat sends questions and a robot voice reads his answers. The robot voice is just a hotkey on his Stream Deck. He pre-programs cute lines so it sounds spontaneous. One night, mid-Q&A, a voice says, "Good night, Mads. Same time tomorrow." Jules is on the couch in frame. She freezes. Chat, bless them. Timestamps like archaeologists. Jax laughs it off. "It's a joke, guys," and toggles to a BRB screen. Our mod logs show him deleting a macro labeled Mads Goodnight. He forgets the cloud sync. Another partner, streaming in the next room, captures the shared macro list populating live on his screen. Names, reminders, and one labeled Mute Jules mic during Mads call. He DMs me. I DM Brand. Brand DMs legal. We don't go public. We do freeze payouts pending an investigation. Jules stays quiet that night. The next day, she streams solo from the same couch, FaceTiming her mother on speaker. He told me the macros were for jokes, she says, and then she opens the shared calendar. There are repeating events named after neighborhoods: Silver Lake 10 p.m., Echo 7, DTL A Roof, with the Mads call macro attached. Jax bursts in frame, tries to kill the stream. He forgets the mute on the TV mounted behind them that mirrors his phone. A message pops up. URSAFE. She buy it? Two more arrive from different names. Chat doesn't miss. The twist isn't the sponsors dropping him. That was inevitable. It's what Jules does with the next month of his ad inventory he'd prepaid. She works with us to convert the slots into PSAS for a local domestic violence shelter, because two of the macro names DM her with stories that aren't about cheating. They're about pressure. She compiles their permissioned messages into a 4-minute montage, intercut with Jax's radical honesty clips. She doesn't call him a monster. She says, "Here is what manipulation sounds like when you think you're funny." Our community fund, normally used for AV gear, donates the rest of Jax's suspended payout to the shelter in his legal name. He threatens to sue. Our policy lets creators opt out of charity redirection. Jax never read the policy. He accepted it on stream last year during a fundraiser, smiling at the camera while Jules held the phone. We roll that clip with his on-screen signature and pin it to the top of the page. He loses brand, audience, and the catchphrase he trademarked. Jules picks up the mic he used to mute and starts a series called Radical Boundaries. It outperforms his peak by week 2. Karma didn't cancel him. It syndicated the truth on his channel. Story 15. I'm a bench jeweler, the person in the back who sets your stones and knows all your secrets. One afternoon, a man named Colin comes in a hurry with 2 identical platinum bands. He wants them both engraved, "To my one and only, C." I raise an eyebrow. He laughs too loud. "One is a backup." "Sure." We turn around engravings in an hour. He insists on waiting, pacing past the bridal cases like a shark in a dress code. 20 minutes later, 2 women enter separately. One heads to the custom counter, asks if her ring is ready. She gives me the name Maya. The other goes to repairs, says she's here for a cleaning on a ring from Colin. Name Rhea. My stomach drops. I ping the floor manager, who has the empathy of a saint and the memory of an elephant. She recalls both women with Colin in the past month. We don't play judge, but we do play careful. We finish both engravings. I call Colin to the front. He reaches for both boxes. My manager says, "Per policy, we ask the purchaser to inspect engravings before release." He opens the first. "To my one and only, C." He smirks. Opens the second. Same line, plus 1 extra flourish I added by request I never received. A microscopic maker's mark under the band that reads, in Latin, "No two truths." He doesn't notice. Maya does. She reads Latin. She picks up the loop we keep for customers and translates softly. Rhea asks what it means. Maya never takes her eyes off Colin. "It means he ordered the same promise twice." He blusters. We offer to take the conversation private. Maya says no. She asks Colin to choose which ring is for whom. He picks one up, hesitates, swaps, hesitates again. The worst part about lying is the choreography. Rhea closes her hand. "Keep them," she says. The twist is what happens when Maya asks to see the purchase contract. In our state, engagement rings are conditional gifts. The purchaser is the owner until the condition, marriage, occurs. Colin paid on a joint card with Maya last week and tried to put the second on a financing plan in Rhea's name today using her email, which flagged fraud. Our POS support pings. Financing canceled. Joint purchase reverted to Maya's account. Legally, she owns the ring he intended to give her, and he owes the balance on the other with no recipient to transfer it to. Maya slides her ring across the counter. Not back to Colin, but to me. "Can you melt it?" she asks. We don't do scrapping on sentimental items unless the owner insists. She insists. We schedule it. Rhea asks if we buy back custom bands. We do, at metal value. She sells it on the spot, takes the cash, and hands half to Maya. "For the consultation fee," she says. They leave together, shoulders squared. Colin stands in a showroom full of sparkles, holding nothing but a financing denial and a Latin phrase that finally applies to him. I head to the back and fire up the torch. Some promises deserve to be liquid. Story 16. I'm an immigration interpreter. My job is to say exactly what people say, not what I wish they'd said. One Tuesday, a couple comes in for a marriage-based green card interview. Arturo, American, and Lena from Peru. They look glossy. Matching folders, coordinated outfits, the whole Pinterest board. The officer starts with the basics. Where did you meet? Who cooks? Where's the thermostat in your apartment? They're rehearsed, but good. Halfway through, the officer excuses herself and returns with a second file. We have a related case in today's docket, she says. Tone neutral. I interpret. Arturo smiles like he's on a game show. The door opens and in walks another woman. Glam, tense, holding the same brand of folder. Applicant. Marissa, the officer reads. Petitioner. Arturo. Same Arturo. Same address. Same wedding date. 3 months ago. Same Vegas Chapel watermark on the photo. Different bride. Lena turns to Granite. Arturo goes paper white. He starts babbling. We were separated. It was an annulment. It's complicated. And the officer asks me to interpret every word. Even the ums. That's the thing. Your own excuses sound worse in another voice. The officer pulls up a social media post from the chapel's feed. 2 back-to-back boomerangs. Arturo dipping Lena at 1:04 p.m. Arturo kissing Marissa at 3:22 p.m. Captioned, Double love today. The receptionist tagged him twice. He forgot to ask them to take one down. Policy time. The officer separates the parties, interviews them solo. I sit with Lena. She doesn't cry. She places her wedding ring on the table, then slides it back on like strapping in for turbulence. Ask if I can withdraw now, she says. I interpret. The officer nods, hands her a form. Next room, I can hear Arturo insisting he was saving Marissa from a bad landlord by marrying her on paper. He adds that he never cheated. The officer taps her pen. Bigamy is not a subset of fidelity, she says. I interpret. It lands like a brick in a pool. The twist comes when the officer asks for proof of cohabitation. Leases, utilities, joint bank statements. Arturo produces a phone bill with 2 lines under his name. The officer calls 1 line from her desk phone. A ringtone chirps in our interview room. Lena's purse. Then she calls the second. We hear it buzzing faintly through the wall in the other room. Marissa answers. On speaker, her contact reads, husband heart emoji. The officer thanks her, hangs up, and prints a notice of intent to deny. 2, actually. She slides 1 to Arturo, 1 to me, to interpret for Lena. You are free to leave this process at any time. Lena stands, smooths her skirt, and asks, politely, if USCIS can mail her the record for her attorney. The officer nods. As Lena reaches the door, she turns to me. Please tell the officer, she says, that I do cook, and I know where the thermostat is. He just never learned how to feel a room, I interpret. The officer, who doesn't react to much, smiles with her eyes. Outside in the hallway, Marissa and Lena pass each other. They don't speak. They don't have to. The fluorescent lights hum. The copier whirs, and somewhere inside the system a file closes like a gavel. Story 17. I was pastry sous at a white tablecloth place that lives for moments. Ring in the millefeuille, proposals. Gold leaf initials, the works. Saturday double-booked use. 1 reservation under Eleanor 10th anniversary, and 1 private gender reveal. Party of 12. Both insisting on the atrium at 8 p.m. Management grumbled, then said yes because money tastes like creme brulee. At 7:40, the gender reveal host, Evan, sneaks into the kitchen with a small box. Can you tuck this into the cake? It's a powder canister that shoots colored dust when cut. He winks. She'll die. He means it as a compliment. 10 minutes later, Eleanor's husband appears with a velvet pouch. Please insert the locket on top of the millefeuille. Inside is a note. His hands shake. She thinks I forgot. He's sweet in that way that makes cooks move faster. At 8:05, the atrium is split. Left table clinking flutes for Eleanor. Right table live streaming the reveal. I roll out 2 masterpieces, millefeuille with spun sugar and a towering reveal cake. Evan stands to speechify about new beginnings, then invites his girlfriend, Zara, to cut. Cameras up. Across the room, Eleanor laughs at a story only she and her husband know. 2 different bubbles of joy, same air. Here's the collision. A late party member slips into the reveal table. Evan's business partner, a woman with an audacity haircut. She whispers, make it fast. Reservations at 9. Zara lifts the knife. At the exact second she slices, Eleanor opens her locket and reads the tiny note. She gasps. Her husband squeezes her hand. Zara's knife hits the canister. A plume of bright blue erupts. The atrium cheers. And then the fire alarms go off. Blue dust tripped a sensor, and our manager flips the PA to override. A loud, mechanized voice booms. Attention! A potential hazard has been detected in the atrium. Proceed to the exits. Evan laughs it off until the sprinklers kick in. Buttercream melts like a crime scene. Guests shriek, phones up, water everywhere. And in the din, Eleanor stands, walks over, and holds out the locket note to Zara. You should read this, she says. It's a printed screenshot, time-stamped, geotagged, of Evan and the business partner in a hotel bar last week, followed by texts. We'll tell her after the party. She'll understand Eleanor's husband used to manage that hotel. He pulled security footage as a favor after noticing Evan's name on both reservations. He wasn't seeking revenge. He was confirming a truth for someone who deserved it. The twist? Our owner comps Eleanor's table, moves them to a dry room, and brings out a second millefeuille we'd secretly baked. Because he doesn't trust happy endings to first tries, Evan's party evacuates, soaked and silent. Zara, mascara washed clean, walks back to her seat, picks up a spoon, and eats a bite of her ruined cake with ceremony. It's still sweet, she says, then leaves with Eleanor, arm in arm, laughing like people who just met the same storm and chose the same umbrella. Story 18. I fix phones in a strip mall repair shop where the neon flickers like an alibi. A guy named Cade rushes in, sweating, saying his screen died and he needs a data transfer like now. He's jumpy in that way that means there's more than photos of dogs at stake. I quote him, he pays extra for the express, and I pop his SIM into a loaner to test. Standard. While I wait for the backup, he gets a text that fills the screen with fireworks. Can't wait for tonight. N. I don't snoop. I do glance at the name because fireworks. Meanwhile, a woman in scrubs walks in carrying another iPhone with the same cracked corner style. Hi, she says, cheeks red from the outside. My phone died during charting. Can you transfer from my iCloud? Name's Nora. My eyes flick to Cade's loaner. N. The shop has 6 chairs and awkward air. Cade avoids her gaze. Nora sits, exhales, and hands me her passcode. He was supposed to pick me up, she says, not looking at anyone. Cade fumbles a cough. The backup finishes. I start the restore on the loaner. Nora's iCloud login pings 2-factor to her email on Cade's contact list because they share a family plan. The code drops into his messages. It flashes across the loaner, big as regret. Cade stands. Babe, this is a misunderstanding. He tries to spin a narrative about surprise dinners and work drinks. Nora nods, like she's watching a weather report for a city she's moving out of. Cool, she says. Then you won't mind if we airdrop the surprise. She asks me to airdrop the phone backup log to both devices. It includes the names of the devices we've seen recently. Up pops Nora's iPhone, Cade's iPhone, and, Mad's iPhone. That third one last connected yesterday, right after midnight. Same Wi-Fi as their home. I didn't know phones could blush. Cade's might as well have. Here's the twist. Nora doesn't throw the phone. She asks about our old device recycling program. We give store credit for functioning older models. She's got 2. She trades them in, takes a gift card, and hands it to the teenage girl waiting behind them with a busted screen and a babysitter budget. For you, Nora says. Then she asks me if we sell Apple AirTags. We do. She buys a 4-pack, peels one, and sticks it to the underside of Cade's gym bag while looking him in the eye. For your keys, she says. He flinches. An hour later, a guy in a Letterman jacket arrives. Mad's boyfriend, it turns out, following an AirTag ping Nora shared with him. The tag's first historic location, a sports bar parking lot where Mads claimed she was studying. The second, Cade's trunk. The third, their apartment, 2 a.m. The kid looks at Cade like he's a bench he's about to PR on. Cade backs away, palms up, improvising sincerity. Nora hands the boyfriend the gift card. Fix your phone, she says, to me. Erase everything on his and set it to factory. He requested the transfer. I'm withdrawing consent. I nod. Bits disappear like lies under alcohol. Cade sputters about my data. The neon hums. The screen turns brand new. The contacts are gone. Karma didn't crack his glass. It wiped what he used to hide behind it.